Welcome to Research 101 series, where we talk everything about the basics for research. In this short presentation, I focus on how to structure the literature review chapter of your dissertation. The literature review is very important because it helps you to situate your research within a body of literature in your field. So literature review is not just a summary of articles, but it's a critical analysis of relevant literature in your field, where you look at the current knowledge, the theories, the methodologies and methods, and also is the opportunity to identify any gaps in literature where your research will be contributing towards filling that gap. So the key issue here is that it's not just a summary of articles, but it's a critical analysis of work that was done by other people in your field that is similar to your work. As you write your literature review, it's important to acknowledge the main goals or the purpose of the literature review chapter. It's important again to look at credible sources like refereed journals, articles, or books. You use the keywords to narrow down on your search, and it's important to search literature using academic databases in your field. And each time an article pops up, usually you start by looking at the abstract to evaluate its relevancy before you thoroughly read the article. You can also make use of the reference list within that article to identify more relevant sources. So the main purpose of a literature review chapter is to critically analyze relevant literature in your field. So it's about evaluating the sources so that you establish the importance of your work. As you establish the importance of your work through literature review, you also identify the gaps of knowledge, which is quite important because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You want to work on an area where there is not much information so that your work kind of contributes to the discussion of filling that gap. And overall, the literature review helps you to situate your work within a body of relevant literature. As you organize your literature review chapter, it is got three very important parts. There's an introduction, a body, and the conclusions. In your introduction, this is where you introduce the chapter, you highlight the focus and purpose of the review, you provide a brief overview of the problem that is being investigated within your thesis, and you also highlight how the chapter is organized. So the introduction helps, it's almost like a guide to your work. Then the other big part is the body of the paper or the chapter, where you critically evaluate the sources. As you evaluate the sources, when it comes to writing, there are many ways in which you can organize your literature. It also depends on your field. You can do a thematic analysis of literature where the body is organized by main themes that emerge from the literature, or you can organize the body chronologically. This is where you organize by date or methodological, looking at the methods, or theoretically looking at the theories within the field. I will explain again in the next slide. Then the third part is the conclusions. This is where you summarize the key findings from your literature and highlight the gaps that you identified as you reviewed your literature. In some cases, this is where you can come up with the conceptual framework on how you conceptualize your study. So when it comes to the actual writing of your literature review, there are four main ways in which you can organize the body of the literature review chapter. It can be chronologically. This is where you organize the review from older manuscripts to more recent articles. In some cases, you might choose to organize your literature depending on the methodological approaches which are found in literature. So it depends on your field. In some fields, certain methodologies are key. Then sometimes it's important to organize your literature by methodological approach used by different scholars in your field. Another way of organizing this chapter is through thematic analysis. To say, as you look at your literature, what are the main themes that emerge from the literature that you are reviewing? Then you can organize the body based on the main themes that emerge from the review. There are times when the literature review is organized depending on the models and theories within the field. This is what we call theoretical organization of the literature review. So you choose a way of organizing literature which makes sense to you or which is typically acceptable in your field. But these are some of the four main ways of organizing the literature review chapter of your dissertation. I want to wish you the best with your research. I hope you found this short presentation to be useful and relevant to your work. Thank you.